Where do people in the Middle Tennessee area vacation? The answer is the 30A Destin, Panama City area. And in today's video, I am talking with one of my real estate best friends who works in Destin about what you need to know about the 30A Destin community and real estate. Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Caitlin Martin and I am a local Nashville real estate agent and founder of the Caitlin Martin team, powered by 𝐋𝐈𝐊𝐄 Realtors, the Andrews Group. I specialize in working with savvy sellers who want to sell right and sell smart, as well as working with out-of-staters looking to relocate to the Middle Tennessee area. Now, if this is your first time stopping by my channel, thank you so much. Please feel free to click subscribe down below so that you are notified anytime I release new video content. So in today's video, we're actually going to be talking with one of my real estate best friends, Candice Powell. She works and lives in the Destin community. And so last year I did a video about the 30A area. If you are unfamiliar with the area, this is where people in the Middle Tennessee area choose to vacation when they're looking to go to the beach. I know that a lot of times when people are moving here, especially from the West Coast, and they're not used to being in a landlocked state, they're wondering, where do you go to the beach? Where do people vacation? And so the 30A area is it. And so in today's video, I'm going to be interviewing Candice, where we are talking about all things, again, Destin 30A. I'm using a lot of those interchangeably, and we discussed that a little bit more in the video, but that's what we're going to be talking about. So without further ado, let's jump into the interview. Okay, so joining me today is Candice Powell with the Lawrence Group, which is a part of the Emerald Coast. So Candice works primarily in the 30A Destin, Panama City area. So Candice, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yes, hi, I'm so glad to be here.
Absolutely. And as you know, the Nashville community, people who live in the Middle Tennessee area, we love visiting the 30A area. I keep saying 30A, but it's not a distinct area. It's a stretch there on the panhandle, right? But that is the go-to beach destination for people that live here. And so when people are moving here, they may be wondering, like, where do people go to the beach since we're in a landlocked state? So just kind of, I actually recently read a Wall Street Journal article that just talked about how that part of the Emerald Coast has really exploded in popularity in recent years. So just tell me, because you live there, you work there, just tell me what it is that people love about the area.
Yeah, so there's actually, it's basically the main attraction obviously is the beach, like you had mentioned. So it's called the Emerald Coast for a reason. It's very beautiful turquoise water.
Gorgeous.
It's very clear. You know, there's some days I absolutely love it because it's like bath water. It's very, very calm as well. Obviously there's some rough days out there, but it can be very calm. And then very white, powdery, sandy beaches. So the area is just absolutely gorgeous. The community that surrounds this area is fantastic. There's very nice locals. We welcome visitors, obviously, because this community would not survive without visitors. And, you know, there's just tons of activities for families to do, you know, obviously all kinds of water activities. I'm a beach girl myself, so that's why I love anything to, yes, I love anything to do with the water. So boating, paddle boarding, you know, there's parasailing, a lot of great local restaurants. Of course, you know, both of our favorites is Beauchamp's.
Beauchamp's is so good.
It is. It's so great.
It is worth the wait when it has a long wait. But, you know, pro tip that we've learned is that if it's busy and you don't have a big group, if it's maybe 2 of you, see if you can get a seat at the bar to beat the wait.
Right, exactly. And a lot of those, local areas like Beauchamps, will have fresh catch of the day. So obviously we're right here on the Gulf of Mexico, so we get a lot of fresh catch. Right now, red snapper season is my favorite fish. So I've been eating a lot of that. So yeah, just the area in general is just, you can be here and relax, or you can go out and have a good time with all the activities in this area. And one thing that I absolutely love about this season, especially in Destin, but there's some in, other areas down the coast, is every Thursday they have fireworks and an air show. So the air show has like the old World War II airplanes, and then not too long after that they have a huge fireworks show in the area.
So what would you say is your busiest season? Like because you actually, before we started recording, told me a crazy stat about like locals versus tourism, but when do you also see your busiest season?
I would say the busiest season is, let's see, so it's in May, so that would be Memorial Day weekend to Labor Day weekend. Okay. That would be considered in season. Now, there's some other busy times, of course, like during the spring break area, any holidays, things in that nature. But yeah, that would be the main season, would be Memorial Day to Labor Day.
Do you see people coming down and visiting at all, like say in the fall, or, maybe when it's really cold for us, maybe it's not as cold for y'all, like say the February time frame? Do you see people, or is it more truly in that high season?
It's truly in that high season. Now, October, though, is a lot of people's favorite month as well, which is definitely cooler. They have like different festivals here during that time, but the weather's great. The sunsets to me are the most beautiful in October, the bright orange and pink, things in that nature. So I would say October is still a pretty busy month. But when it starts hitting like January, February, you're going to be looking at more of locals and getting to know the locals and things in that nature. We do have snowbirds. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with snowbirds. So there are people that come up from the north when it's cold to come to our area, and they will stay for months at a time. So we do have those visitors, that we love to have in this area.
And so tell me though about the local population versus the tourism population.
Oh yes. So the local population, at least in the Destin area, we're almost at like 14,000 when I looked at the stats recently, but we have 4.5 million people that visit here every year. So a tiny town, but tons of people. And it's just because it's just a great destination. And it's funny because I still hear of people that have never heard of this area,
Well, and the crazy thing is, with me growing up in Virginia, Myrtle Beach was always like the go-to beach. And so it wasn't until college when I was at UT that then I was introduced to the Emerald Coast. And then, it's only become a real big part of my life in the last like 5-6 years. Having since been introduced to my husband, and that was big. That was a huge place for him and his family growing up, which is great. But one of the reasons, in addition to it being absolutely beautiful, is the fact that it's really easy for us in the Nashville community to get to. It's about a 7 to 8 hour drive depending on traffic, but you can also hop on a 1 hour flight on Southwest and be there in no time, which is makes it really easy to get there and can help ease people when they're used to maybe not being in a landlocked state and now they are. Getting to that area is really easy. And I know that you guys have the 2 airports. You have the Panama City Beach airport and then the Destin Walton, which is kind of on, either ends for the most part of the 30A area, which again makes it easy to get to.
Absolutely. Yes. It's very close. And the airports, there's actually even a private airport in Destin itself that some people use as well.
And so you say private. When you say private, obviously that makes me think of, wealth, rich celebrities. That's, obviously where my mind goes. And with that, we do know that there are, we know especially like country star Luke Bryan, his property's on the market right now.
Yeah.
But that area is so popular that we even see our stars in the Nashville community purchasing real estate down there.
Yes, absolutely. That there's quite a different ones in the area. And then you see a lot of them visit here too as well.
Exactly.
So I know.
And
we go ahead.
Yeah, you go.
Yeah, no, we have a lot of, people that visit here as well pretty commonly, especially during the summertime that you'll see out. We've seen people like Jamie Foxx, different music singers. I think Jelly Roll was just here last week, and things of that nature. But you guys are used to that in Nashville.
We are.
We are.
I was actually talking with my team members literally yesterday, and we were talking about the different artists or celebrities that we've seen in town. Like I've seen Reese Witherspoon at her boutique that she has in 12 South. And it's so interesting to us because, in this community, if you see them, you don't bother them. So, and it is kind of interesting again, like you're so used to seeing somebody on TV and then you actually see them in person. But again, I think that because of just the beauty of the area and what it offers, that does attract not just those of us who are not celebrities, but it also does attract celebrity clientele as well.
Yes, absolutely.
And so I know we've said the word 30A a lot, but I feel like it's really good because I did have somebody just ask me this in like the last week. They're like, what is 30A? And I'm like, okay, it's basically, slang is not the right word, but it's basically a terminology that you've kind of slapped on a portion of the coastline that there's not like a 30A beach, right? There's so many different beaches in so many different towns, right?
Right. And 30A is actually a street.
Right.
So we have a main street that goes many miles east of Destin, many miles west of Destin, which goes the other way when I'm doing my hands. And that's Highway 98. So we're basically looking on the north side of 98. We're looking on the bay side. The south side of 98 will be the beach. So 30A does run off of 98. And it's just another beautiful area. You guys, there's Santa Rosa Beach. There's Alice Beach, Grayton Beach. There's all kinds of beautiful beaches in that area. But the huge range of area, there's not really any differences when it comes to the white sand and the Emerald Coast waters. Obviously, there's different local restaurants that you can go to and each beach does have a little uniqueness to it, for sure.
Yes, which I would totally agree. I feel like one of the biggest differences that I noticed, because we're so used to going to that Santa Rosa area and heading into Destin for, Beauchamps and other meals. So that's kind of our sweet spot. But we actually last year drove basically from Destin to through Rosemary, because on the other side of Rosemary is when you start to run into Panama City. Sure. And I feel like you're right. Beach wise, white sand, beautiful water. To me, the biggest difference is like the real estate. Like you can definitely tell you've entered into the different beaches, like Alice Beach, all those buildings are white. The sidewalk is white. Everything is white, and it is well above my pay grade. I literally, I think I looked at like Zillow when we drove through there, and for a stunning house, it's like 10 million, but 10 million doesn't even get you waterfront, right? So you definitely do have the different classes of real estate and price points.
Different price points.
But kind of tell me a little bit about like the different kinds of real estate that people can find in the 30A area from,
we stay at a condo, but obviously there's houses. So, what kind of real estate, if people are even looking for investment purposes, like what are the different kinds of real estate they can find down there?
Yeah, so obviously a lot of people, since it's a huge vacation town, they look for investors will look for short-term rentals. So those are really good for condos and single family residences.
Okay.
And, it's interesting that, maybe even some new investors will think, oh, I have to have a Gulf view to have enough, a return on investment or enough cash flow. But that's not necessarily the case. You can be blocks away from the beach and still get a good return. So it really depends on, each property, independently each property, but then each subdivision. So basically, when I do, speak to clients, we just have a consultation and just discuss, wants, needs, expectations, and then we go from there. But, obviously there's some people there's investors that are like, I just want whatever the best return on investment is. And there's others who are like, I want my family to vacation here, so then they're like, I do want a Gulf view, or I do want to be beachfront, something in that nature. So there's a variety of ways that we can go when it comes to, investment properties. But I would say most investors, they do tend to look towards, I would say, so I live in actually Destin myself.
Yes.
West of Destin, about 8 miles, is a place called 𝐋𝐈𝐊𝐄 Island. It's in Fort Walton Beach. So we're looking there of mainly condos that are beachfront. There are a couple single family residences in that area. And then, of course, Destin, you're mainly gonna get condos. When it comes to single family residences south of 98, there's different, north of 98, there's a city ordinance where there's the majority are not short-term rental allowed.
I was gonna ask to me, it would seem like condos, if it hasn't been a short-term rental before, that it would have maybe an easier path to getting that permit versus, I know that sometimes with single family homes, those can be a little bit tricky. I mean, Nashville in and of itself continues to change short-term rental ordinances all the time. So is it, because when I think single family homes, where my mind kind of goes is the seaside area. So, for those that don't know, Seaside was where the Truman Show was shot.
I was about to say that.
So I just that's what I think about, because you do have those beautiful beach bungalow type homes that are not waterfront, but that's where a lot of people vacation. So do you find with short-term rentals, is it like permitting and whatnot? Do you find that it's like in more of those like visitor friendly communities where you can find them? Is that what you typically see? Or can it just vary depending on community?
It depends on, for one thing, it depends on the city. And then another thing you have to look at is the homeowners association or the condo association. So first it starts with that. Will they even allow it? And then you have to go into the community itself and see if they will allow it. Now, like I said, that's the way most of our town brings in income. So a lot of them do allow short-term rentals, especially south of 98 when it comes to the Destin area. But as you get further down to like Miramar Beach, Crystal Beach, Santa Rosa, like you said, the 38 area, and then Panama City Beach, those are a little bit more widespread when it comes to short-term rentals.
And one thing that I've noticed is, if you're in the Destin area, you can see some more of those higher rise beach condo buildings. Whereas when you start moving, I guess you're moving east, right? Like towards the Santa Rosa area and whatnot, all of a sudden it looks like nothing can really be above 4 stories. So it seems like there does, at least in certain communities, they're trying to preserve, not everybody's view being obstructed if, say, maybe you're not sitting right on the waterfront.
Right. And a lot of the Santa Rosa Beach and 38 area, they're not exactly beachfront. Some of them you actually have to cross the street to get there, or you'll see tons of golf carts in that area.
Yes.
And I would say probably the most Gulf view properties or beachfront properties is going to be a lot more of your condos than your single family residences, but there's quite a few up there with the single family residences, but they're going to be definitely higher in price points. So we're talking about like multi-million.
Oh, the real estate prices there are, I mean, there's so many stunning homes, right? Like that's almost like half the fun when you're down there is you like see this big old beach home and you're like, and what do you cost? Like, it's really interesting to see, but you're talking about investors and, maybe you don't have to be beachfront. Do you find any commonalities through what kind of properties have the best cash flow or the best return on their investment? Like, is it a condo building with more family friendly amenities, or like, do you see any commonalities, or is it just more so like just depending on property kind of thing?
It really is just depending on property, because literally we can see, one that's not beachfront, one that even further down the road east, that one time an investor and I were running numbers, for a particular property that they were wanting. And now it did have some amenities.
Yeah.
It did have some amenities like, pools and recreational areas, but it was nowhere by the beach or, south of 98, and it brought in a very huge return on investment. So it's just really property dependent when it comes down to it. Now, obviously, there are some really good returns when it comes to, being right on the beach. But it's all out there, and it really depends on what an investor wants and looks for, in a property.
So, I mean, that's great to know in terms of it doesn't necessarily have to be a specific building or a specific area in terms of great cash flow. Like, there's a lot of opportunity in that area.
So this is actually going to conclude part 1 of my 2-part series in Talking with Candice. Our first conversation ended up going on a while, so I wanted to break it up into manageable pieces. So in the next video that's going to be released, we're going to be talking about what she looks for in the criteria, what kind of criteria she needs from an investor when they are starting the home searching process. Plus, we also dive into some of the pitfalls or things you really need to be aware of if you've never purchased real estate along the Florida Panhandle. So we talk about that. Plus, we also talk about her favorite places in Destin, what it's like to live there as a local. So we tackle all of that and more coming up in part 2. But again, if you're looking for Candice's information or you're interested about real estate, whether it's in Nashville or down in the Destin community, both of our contact information is below. Please don't hesitate to reach out. Again, my name is 𝐋𝐈𝐊𝐄. I'll see you next time.